we spent our federal dollars over time. We took advantage of technology for infrastructure as well as Chromebooks for students. But again, the lion's share was projects that we would have had to go out to the public for. The bottom is just 6 years ago now. We went out and we were successful with the $20 million referendum. That was a lot of infrastructure, security, lavatories, locker rooms, student and staff kind of daily utilization items. The biggest ticket item in that was HVAC in the classrooms at Oakcrest. Prior to 2016, there was no HVAC in the classrooms at Oakcrest. I have a slide on all three buildings that breaks down the individual work. I'll spend the time on Cedar Creek, but just so you can see, there is a slide for each building. Specifically identifies the work being completed at each campus. Absegami is going to see approximately $7.8 million in upgrades, Oakcrest approximately $7.1 million, and Cedar Creek just under $6 million. So there's a couple of reoccurring themes between all three buildings. You'll see gymnasiums, you'll see parks, you'll see fields in all three locations, tennis courts. Those are common themes. At Oakcrest and Absegami, there's also blacktop work and walkway work to assist with handicap and accessibility across the campus. So for Cedar Creek, I'll kind of work bottom to top. Number 4, the blue at the bottom, is our PAC, our Performing Arts Center. That's something that's common across all three buildings. Brand new LED lighting system, lighting board, sound system throughout the entire auditorium, including wireless microphones for our performers. That's an item at Cedar Creek. I was just having a conversation. When we built Cedar Creek 12 years ago, it was a state project. They ordered all of that for us. We didn't get a say because it was a state project. It was a DCA project. This is now our project. So one of the nice things with this will be, we will be able to actually get the 3 drama teachers together and have them pick the wireless microphone system they want. We will be able to actually have the drama and the band and the chorus together to look at the type of soundboard that we need that best suits what we do. We didn't have control 12 years ago. We'll have control in all 3 buildings this year. Going clockwise, number 2 is the tennis courts. The tennis courts in all 3 buildings are going to be resurfaced. The tennis courts are one of the items on this list in all 3 buildings that are open to the community. All of our tennis courts remain unlocked and open on weekends and on nights, so they are community use facilities. All 3 schools on a Sunday will have community members, especially a lot of older individuals getting in some exercise and taking advantage of that. Continuing around at Cedar Creek, number 3 is what is right now our soccer field and used for one of our lacrosse fields. That's going to be rebuilt with a proper crown, which it does not have right now, and new grass applied to the area so we get better drainage and actually proper drainage. Number 1 is the big ticket item in all 3 buildings, and Cedar Creek is actually the highest of those 3 buildings because Cedar Creek will also be getting lights, which it does not have at this time. Oakcrest and Absegami have lights on their stadium, but we're going to be installing LED light systems in all 3. This will be lights from the ground up. A small rectangle down here on the bottom left. Again, the state made the determination we did not need outdoor facilities such as a concession stand and bathrooms. We will be building a concession stand and permanent bathroom facilities. One of the things that has been very frustrating to us over the years, we didn't have that there because, again, it was not deemed a quote-unquote necessary bill. But that is something that we will include. And then the track at Cedar Creek and all 3 at Cedar Creek will be a resurface. At the other 2 buildings will be a complete grind down and rebuild. And all 3 stadiums get turf fields. The turf fields, I know one of the things I had a parent tell me, well, that's great for the football team. The turf stadiums will be used for football, field hockey, boys soccer, girls soccer, boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse. So they're open and they're striped for all sports. The fans will also now have the opportunity to practice on the field because it's turf and they can't wear the grass out. The other thing that's important that we have said to all of the town councils, and we've said with all the Board of Education who are involved, if you are a town entity, a PAL, a local athletic association, or you're one of our middle schools, you will not be charged to use the stadium. So that turf field will be available. So for example, I know at Oakcrest, we've already set up with Davies right next door, their boys and girls soccer team, their field team will have access to play their home games on the stadium at Oakcrest. For Cedar Creek, the soccer stadium, the soccer striping would be made available to, say, Mullica Rec to use if they were so choose. No charge for using the facility as long as we have staff working. You want to host a Sunday tournament, you're going to have to pay for a custodian to watch the facility and the bathrooms, that type of thing. But that opens up a lot of uses for the community. I was in Egg Harbor City last week. We talked about the Egg Harbor City Crusaders. I know some of the Mullica youth who play football go that direction. They will have access to the Cedar Creek Stadium as well, the Egg Harbor City Crusaders. And the track, again, is a very common and popular destination for community members to use for their own recreation and their own leisure. And that will continue to be open. Mullica track, anytime they want to use it. I mean, you guys already come over and use the track now. We don't charge. Obviously, that would continue. Our goal would be to have all the middle schools come into our three facilities at no cost. So the $21 million is the total dollar amount. There are a couple of things that we are very passionate about. We believe this is the right time to do this. Number one, 6 months ago, this is the state. The state's going to pay $8.8 million. And just to be clear, that's our tax dollars that the state collects. This is our way to get the state tax dollars back into our communities. What I want to point out there, that was 6 months ago, that dollar amount was $2.4 million. The state has cash from the federal dollars they've received the last 2 years. They are paying for things they don't usually pay for. They don't usually pay for tracks. They're paying 42% of all food tracks. They don't usually pay for tennis courts. They're paying a percentage of the tennis courts. They won't pay for the turf field. They'll pay for all the drainage work underneath it. They have cash, so we received letters, documentation in May. Resubmit all your documentation and we'll let you know your new state share. That state share went from 2.4 million to 8.8 million. That's a huge difference. In 2 or 3 years, that money will be gone. We also have saved, we set aside in capital reserve $1.25 million, which comes off of that. That's what we're paying into this also. So that actually lowers the amount that is going to be bonded to just under $11 million. You probably have heard me say zero tax impact on the community. We are paying off our 2002 Allegheny edition next year. So we will roll this directly into the place in our budget where that is. The impact will be less than, I think we see a $6 a year decrease with this new tax cost compared to the old tax cost. The example I give people, I know we do it in my house, you wait to buy the new car until one car is paid off, and then you get another car and you just kind of replace that car payment in your budget. We're trying to take the same approach here. We have debt that is falling off, so we will be able to slide this into the same spot, and that's where we can say there's no impact to the tax base. If we were to not do this, a common question is, well, how much of my tax is going to go down? The answer in Mullica is about $21 or $22 a year. So it's not a significant impact if it doesn't happen. And unfortunately, again, 2 or 3 years from now, all of these projects will become more expensive because the state is not using their money. The state is using some federal money, and we want to take advantage of that. So this is an overview, $21 million. The vote is October 6th. I believe in Mullica, if memory serves me correct, Elwood Firehouse is the voting location for this community. But we will be putting all that information out on our website as well as through other meetings. October 6th is the vote. We have purposely gone after, that is the first day that's available for vote in the state of New Jersey. And we wanted to go first because there are only X number of companies that rebuild tracks. There are only X number of companies that redo stadiums. You wait later in the year, you run the risk of getting further down the line of getting supplies and equipment. Everybody knows what's going on now with the acquisition of supplies and equipment, supply chain delays. We're hoping by jumping in early, and all of our design and architecture work is already done. So we will be ready to immediately go out to bid, wait through the legally required time frame, award bids, award contracts, and begin acquiring the equipment. We are looking, if this is successful in October, there are some projects we will start as early as Easter break of 23. The bulk of the work will be completed next summer. So we've got a pretty aggressive timeline. And again, we have our backlog, we have our paperwork all done because this is something we've been working to over the last couple of years. So that's it, $21 million. Local bond will be just under 11 million. Because we're paying off old debt, we'll be able to keep the tax rate stable with no increase in anybody's costs. And votes on October 6th, and we hope that people will recognize what this offers to our students in the community. Just to put it into perspective, if I add the band, the choir, the chorus, and the drama who benefit from the new lighting and sound in the pack, and I add all the athletes that benefit from tennis, track, and stadiums, it's about 68 to 70% of the district students directly benefit from this work. So that's a huge chunk when you can say you're targeting that many students and they're going to be impacted. So this isn't something I heard somebody say, oh, good, Cedar Creek football gets another new thing. That's 60 kids. 250 athletes would use that stadium in addition to the community. So that's a big thing. Again, I thank you for the time and questions.
I was going to say, are you ready to take questions?
Absolutely,
Does
absolutely.
anyone have any questions? Anyone in the public have any questions for him?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And Mr. Weber, thank you. I'll see you soon, Ms. Brando.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Randall.
Good night.
Great job.
Thank you all.
So at this time, Mr. Weber has something to share.
Good evening. The New Jersey State Board of Education passed the updated New Jersey Student Learning Standards for Comprehensive Health and Physical Education in 2020, which requires districts to implement the changes beginning this school year. The NJSLS are not subject to change, and we are obligated to meet those standards. However, local boards of education are not required to use a specific curriculum, textbook, or lesson plan. Some districts have made decisions to purchase materials and take the new curriculum standards to the extreme. This is not what we are doing in Mullica. To be clear, the district has the flexibility to decide how and when those standards are taught. We are using our discretion to make sure that we are teaching what is appropriate for Mullica and when it is appropriate to teach it during the school year. It is our goal to provide continuing communication to our Mullica school community as to how and when students will receive health instruction during the school year and what the curriculum will look like. On that note, the proposed curriculum is available on the board agenda for public review. Parents will receive more information about opt-out procedures and an informational session planned for September in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, the meeting will be open to the public for comments on agenda items only. If you have comments for things that are not on the agenda, you can share them in our second public comment statement at the end of the meeting. If your comments pertain to students, personnel, litigation, or negotiations, we would ask that you see the superintendent after the meeting, since the board does not generally discuss such items in public. If you make a comment, please state your first name, last name, and municipality, and comments must be limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone who would like to make that comment? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, Bob Stoneworth, Mullica Township, and it goes to the superintendent enrollment report. My question is on the pre-K, the levels jumped from 61 to 76. Is there a reason why there is a big jump? Is it because the pre-K has expanded? Is there more people coming into the community? It's just something to keep an eye on because I see that level spike.
Yes.
I'm just wondering why. If it's choice or school choice.
Question.
Okay.
Good question, Bob. Yes, I'm happy to announce that last year we applied and received the preschool expansion grant, which many districts around the state have received. That allowed us to receive additional funding for preschool and open the door for general education 3-year-old students to enroll in preschool. As a result of that, our preschool population has expanded. In fact, we had a quite extensive waiting list this summer, and here in the past few weeks, we've added an additional preschool classroom to accommodate that waiting list. So yes, the numbers have increased over the past few months, and we're expecting then moving forward, we'll probably be in the 75 to 90 range for preschool on a yearly basis.
Are they all residents? Are they
Yeah.
choice?
Yeah.
So it's 3 and 4. Because you're the basic public.
Yes, because of adding the 3-year-olds into that.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other public comments?
Aaron Dingo, 4756 Reading Avenue, Cape Cod City. In regards to this curriculum, Mr. Walker, is Mullica still using Prodigy? The math program Prodigy online?
We are, yes.
Okay, so to my knowledge, fact, Prodigy in math will be using math facts with gender. I'm questioning you. You know personally, last year, I removed my daughter for many reasons. One, for curriculum, 2, for the child safety. You guys have failed my class. Since she's been homeschooled, she's grown tremendously. But how many kids are you going to lose this curriculum?
So, Mrs. Abel, I think if you would like to have an additional conversation regarding your concerns, we can certainly do that after the meeting, or we can set up an appointment. But again, we're having public comment for agenda items.
That's your answer for everything, Mr. Rutherford. Have a good night.
Is there anyone else who wants to make a comment? Okay. Any old business?
No.
New business? All right, committee reports. Curriculum policy.
In curriculum, staff presented a PowerPoint on the curriculum updates. Teachers were still working on some of them and finalizing them. We were told that we would get a final copy, which we were given over the weekend to look at. We also discussed the Nurture Our Approach program, which is a program for both staff and students, and this program teaches teachers how to prevent a crisis through relationships and words with the students. And we're still continuing to discuss it. We never finalized anything. We also discussed the code of conduct. The committee requested an update on the results of last year's code of conduct changes. And we also discussed how students shouldn't miss recess as a disciplinary measure. And we were told that was going to be looked into and made sure that that didn't happen. We also continue discussing the grading system, trying to figure out if we could have our grading system report card grades match the high school report cards, or grading system, sorry, not report card, grading system, so that there is some type of continuity from here to high school. And we discussed allowing teachers to provide breaks throughout the school day, just like we did during COVID, but we would leave it to their discretion. If they felt the students needed a break, they would provide that break. And we also discussed how to give teachers more time for science and social studies.
Thank you. Finance?
All right, so first we discussed the county substitute chart and where Mullica wound up falling within that chart. And we decided to increase the pay for our certificated substitute teachers from $125 a day to $150. We started discussing potential referendum work and projects that may need to be reviewed both inside and outside of the school. We discussed the RVE change order, which I believe we're following up with Amy about as far as what we can do with that. We discussed the LEAP grant, a LEAP grant update, which is Port Republic is doing a feasibility study with Stockton as to turning into a send receive district with our township. And that is continuing. Then we discussed the 22-23 transportation costs. As a result of the parent opt-out survey, we were able to eliminate one route, and that's going to be a savings to the district compared to the previous year. And hopefully that'll also cut down on some of the bus wait times. We discussed the Washington Township preschool application. And lastly, we were made aware that there was a significant wait list for pre-K because of the increased number of 3-year-old students. And we decided to look into whether or not it would be feasible to add another class, which it was, and it's what we're going ahead and moving on with. And that was the conclusion of our meeting.
Thank you. I'm going to give the report for personnel and negotiations. We discussed the organizational chart and some other personnel matters. Okay. Do we have any correspondence? Then we have the board goals and district goals. The district goals action plan. I was supposed to write up the board goals action plan, and I honestly forgot. So I will have it for next meeting. So we have the district goals action plan. Do you need to put it on this one? Yes. Okay. Is it a roll call or a introduction? All in favor? Okay. Then can I get a motion and a second to approve the district goals as listed below?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion carries. Do you have any updates? Okay. Regular and executive session minutes.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Number 7A is just our monthly reports for informational purposes. In section 8, can I get a motion and a second to remove, a motion and a second for the Mullica Township Board of Education upon recommendation of the superintendent to approve items 8B through 8Q.
Motion.
Oh. Under letter M is the 22-23 ACES staff. There's an attachment that lists the positions and their rates. The rate for the data clerk was not included, so it is $15 an hour. We're adding that in there, so $15 an hour for that one. Is there any discussion?
Just point out one or two things. As Mr. Stallworth had asked about preschool, you see on the agenda hiring additional staff for preschool. But I'd also like to welcome Michael Senesi. We have him joining us this evening with his wonderful wife. Michael, we're so glad to have you. He's coming on board for middle school math in 6th grade. Our previous 6th grade math teacher, Mr. Richards, is moving to 8th grade math. So we're excited to have Michael come aboard. He's also a Mullica resident, and you might have seen him around with youth activities, sports and things like that. So welcome, Michael, and we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any other discussion? All right, can I get a roll call then?
Mrs. Hilda? Mrs. Hurd? Yes. Mr. Romer?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Winterbottom?
Yes.
Mrs. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Brownhill?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, can I get a motion and a second for the Mullica Township Board of Education upon recommendation of the superintendent approve items 9B through 9D?
Is the one where you said something about 9C as well? Community.
Oh, yes. So if anyone has a paper copy, item C had a typo in the attachment, so we're removing it and we'll do it in September. So what was D became C and so on. Motion?
Second.
I also want to point out with the curriculum guides that the health curriculum was kind of straight through and it's being moved to September, so we're not actually approving the health curriculum this meeting. But we wanted to leave it in there so that everybody could see the proposed version. If you didn't notice online, there's a link. You can actually open that folder and see all the curriculums that we're approving tonight so that you can look through them all. So that way the health curriculum could still be there for you. Any other discussion?
No, you're good.
All right, can I get a roll call?
Mrs. Jacoba?
Yes.
Mrs. Hurd? Yes. Mr. Romer?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Winterbottom?
Yes.
Mrs. Lyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Brownhill?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, can I get a motion and a second for the Mullica Township Board of Education upon recommendation of the superintendent, approve item 10B?
Motion.
Second. Any discussion? Can I get a roll call?
Mrs. Jacoba?
I'm gonna say no to the, I don't know if I'm saying the whole thing, but to the homework one.
That's the only
Yeah.
recommendation.
That's for the resolution?
Vote.
And the policy?
And the policy.
Okay. Thank you. Mrs. Hurd? Yes. Mr. Romer?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? Mr. Winterbottom?
Yes.
Mrs. Lyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Brownhill?
Yes.
Motion carried.
At this time, can I get a motion and a second for the Mullica Township Board of Education upon recommendation of the business administrator, approve items 11B through 11E?
Motion.
Any discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Mrs. Jacoba?
Yes.
Mrs. Hurd? Yes. Mr. Romer?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Winterbottom?
Yes.
Mrs. Lyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Brownhill?
Yes. At this time, the meeting will now be open to the public for comments. If the comments pertain to students, personnel, litigation, or negotiations, we would ask that you see the superintendent after the meeting since the board does not generally discuss such items in public. Please state your first name, last name, and municipality, and comments must be limited to 3 minutes per person. Would anyone like to make a comment?
Hi, my name is Fatima Ford. I'm from Mullica. I had wrote to the superintendent and both the Kelly Capaldi and the president and vice president in regards to transportation for preschoolers and the safety of the preschoolers on the bus. I understand what your past practice has been. I also understand that the past practice several years ago was that you had a separate bus for preschoolers, and they did have aides on them. And now, I also am aware that the 3 and 4-year-olds are required to be in car seats, and that the transportation company supplies them and secures them into their buses. And that was recommended by the transportation coordinator here, which is, I'm not going to say because, you don't talk about personnel, but anyway. So it was recommended by you guys here to have the car seats put in place, which I'm not against. I'm for that. But my main concern is their safety and having a middle school student or their sibling hook them into that car seat or seat belt appropriately and safely, and making sure that they are put in there secured for transport. I understand that sometimes staff members go out and they do hook them in when they're here at school, but what happens when they're en route being transported to school or from school? Who is responsible for them on there in case of emergency? If that bus gets in an accident and that bus driver is not able to tend to a 3 or 4-year-old or any of the other kids on that bus, who is responsible for unhooking those kids that are secured into a car seat? It should not be any other kid on that bus's responsibility. There should be an aide on that bus to help in that event. You putting that responsibility onto a 11 through 14-year-old student is not okay. That's not, as a parent, I'm not okay with that. And I know that there's other parents that are okay with it, but they're afraid to stand up because before they've stood up to and said something and nothing was done. So to me, it's not fair to put that responsibility on another school student, on a middle school student. God forbid they do get in an accident and those young kids get hurt. Who then, those middle school students or that sibling has to live with the fact that they didn't secure that kid in appropriately or safely, and that kid got hurt. Now they have to live with that. Who's responsible for that if that happens?
So, Ms. Ford, I think I had responded to and indicated that we were going to be providing an option for parents that if they would like to buckle their child in at the bus stop.
No, that was not included in my email at all.
So, we will be contacting the parents of the preschool students who are riding the bus. We get asked who is riding the bus.
Okay.
And parents will be given the option to buckle those children in at the bus stop, secure them on the ride to school. There's a process involved with that, and we'll be communicating that to you here within the next day or so.
Okay. And that is approved by the
It's
bus
approved
company?
by the transportation company,
Okay.
by our board solicitor, as well as our insurance company.
Okay.
Okay.
And then when they're here getting put on the bus, there's going to be a staff member to put them on the bus?
Our staff will assist the students here at school.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Did you want to make a comment?
I do, please.
Your name, please?
My name is Hope Eccleston. My children are 4 and 9 years old. This year, I would like to utilize the bus. I drive my kids to school for the last 15 years. But this year, I would like to use the bus. I can get on and I can hook my son in, my 4-year-old. However, my son is known to unhook his latches. And I don't trust my 9-year-old to secure him back in. So that makes me worry as well. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to make a comment? Yes, I do. Okay. My name is Tara Silpina, and I'm from Mullica. My husband and I recently moved to Mullica Township primarily for the school district, so our children would have the opportunity to attend a small hometown school. We have transferred our children from a Catholic school to afford our children the resources that a public school can offer. My husband and I do not expect the Mullica Township School District to teach our children subject matters that we do not deem age appropriate. New Jersey has updated the student learning standards to include concepts that I believe my children are not mature enough to understand. Of course, I understand it's up to the Mullica Township Curriculum Office to prepare the learning materials and lessons that will be used which will then be adopted by this board. But I did not see any proposed materials that will actually be used for this new comprehensive health and physical education curriculum. My husband and I are asking this board to please understand that as advocates for our children, we do not want to expose our children to these ideologies. Opting out of these lessons should be the last resort, and I would like to see this board pass a resolution to oppose these New Jersey standards. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to make a public comment? Thank you very much. Our next board meeting is scheduled for September 28th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. for our executive session and 7 p.m. for our public session. I do not have a full PTA update other than that every year you need to renew your membership. So even if you were a member last year, you do need to sign up for the PTA this year. It's $5. It's good for the whole year. You get on their mailing list and you can learn all about the great things that they're doing and all the many times they ask for help. And they do a lot for our kids. So if you are able, please join the PTA. They're usually at back to school night. They're usually at the table and you can sign up there. I know that they were at the recent hometown celebration and they were taking sign-ups there as well. Do you have an MTEF update?
I don't have much to say other than we are planning to get back to normal with fundraising activities, so stay tuned for information from the MTA, from the foundation on how you can get involved and support them in fundraising activities and events. And I was just going to do a shout out for the PTA as well to join, so we already did that plug. So that's it.
All right, thank you. We do not need another executive session, so at this time, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting? Motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstained? Thank you, everyone, for attending.